Before there was land, before there was ocean, before there was even a sky to hold a sunrise. There was nothing here but dust. Not the dust under your bed. Cosmic dust. Drifting in the freezing dark, going nowhere, doing nothing, for billions of years, and then, something happened. A star exploded nearby. And that single explosion set off a chain reaction that, over the next few 100 million years, built the ground you're standing on right now, the chair you're sitting in. The phone in your hand. The air in your lungs. All of it, once floating dust. This is the story of how a cloud of nothing became the only known home for life in the universe. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll never look at the sky the same way again. About 4.6 billion years ago, in a quiet, unremarkable corner of the Milky Way, there was a massive cloud of gas and dust called a solar nebula. Mostly hydrogen and helium, left over from the Big Bang, with a sprinkling of heavier elements cooked up inside older, dying stars. For a long time, this cloud just sat there. Cold. Dark. Spread out across trillions of miles, but nothing in the universe stays still forever. Some scientists believe a nearby supernova, the violent death of a giant star, sent a shockwave rippling through the cloud. That shockwave squeezed the gas and dust just enough to tip the balance, and once gravity gets even a small advantage, it doesn't let go. The cloud began to collapse in on itself. And as it collapsed, something remarkable happened. It started to spin. Picture a figure skater pulling their arms in during a spin, they speed up. That's exactly what happened to this collapsing cloud. As it shrank, it spun faster and faster, flattening out into a giant, swirling disk, like cosmic pizza dough, stretched thin around a dense, glowing center. That center kept collecting more and more material, growing hotter, and denser, and heavier, until the pressure at its core became so extreme that hydrogen atoms began fusing into helium. A star ignited, our sun was born, and around it, spinning in that same flattened disk, was everything left over. Gas. Ice. Grains of rock and metal. This leftover material had a name, the protoplanetary disk. And somewhere in that swirling debris, on a stretch of the disk about 93 million miles from the new sun, Earth was about to begin. Here's where it gets almost hard to believe. Earth did not form in one dramatic moment. It was built, piece by microscopic piece. Tiny grains of dust in that disk, floating and colliding, began to stick together through simple static electricity, the same force that makes a balloon stick to your hair. Grain stuck to grain. Clumps became pebbles. Pebbles became rocks. This process is called accretion, and it's almost unimaginably slow at first, but it snowballs. Literally. The bigger a clump got, the more gravity it had. And the more gravity it had, the faster it pulled in more material. Within a few million years, which sounds long, but is a blink of an eye in cosmic terms, these rocks had grown into planetesimals, chunks of rock and metal ranging from the size of a boulder, to the size of a small moon, and now the real chaos began. Imagine millions of these planetesimals, all sharing the same neighborhood, all moving at different speeds, all crossing each other's paths. They collided. Constantly, some collisions shattered rocks into rubble. But others, the head-on, high-speed impacts, caused objects to merge, fusing into bigger and bigger bodies. Over tens of millions of years, this violent demolition derby slowly thinned the herd. Fewer objects. Bigger objects. Stronger gravity. More collisions. Eventually, one of these growing bodies, orbiting in what we now call the habitable zone, not too close to the sun, not too far, became large enough to clear its orbital path of debris. That body was Proto-Earth. It wasn't the Earth we know. Not even close. It was a molten, hellish ball of liquid rock, glowing orange, bombarded constantly from every direction. If you stood on it, which you absolutely could not, the sky would have been full of fire. But Earth had one more brutal encounter left. Scientists believe that around 4.5 billion years ago, a planet roughly the size of Mars, nicknamed Theia, was on a collision course with young Earth, and they hit, not a graze. Not a near miss. A full, planet-shattering collision that would have vaporized rock instantly, flinging a ring of molten debris into orbit around Earth. Over time, likely just a few thousand years, remarkably fast, that ring of debris clumped together under its own gravity. And became the moon, which means every time you look up at a full moon, you're looking at a piece of a planet that no longer exists, fused with a piece of our own. For millions of years after that impact, Earth stayed molten, a churning ocean of liquid rock. But slowly, the heaviest elements began to sink. Iron and nickel, being dense, sank straight toward the center, forming Earth's core. Lighter minerals floated upward, forming the layers we now call the mantle and eventually a solid outer crust. This is called planetary differentiation, and it's the reason Earth today has a molten iron heart, a thick rocky middle, and a thin solid shell we happen to be standing on. As the surface cooled, it stopped glowing. Rock solidified. The first crust formed, cracked, volcanic, and utterly alien to anything alive today, but Earth still needed two more things before it could ever support life: air and water. As Earth cooled, volcanoes everywhere were erupting constantly, releasing gases trapped deep inside the planet: water vapor, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, sulfur. This became Earth's first atmosphere. At the same time, many scientists believe comets and water-rich asteroids, leftover debris from the outer solar system, continued crashing into Earth, delivering even more water, locked inside ice. As the planet kept cooling, that water vapor in the atmosphere began to condense. Clouds formed for the first time in Earth's history. And then, rain, not rain for a day. Rain that may have fallen continuously for thousands of years, filling the basins and depressions of the young crust, and that became the first ocean. So think about that next time you're standing at the edge of the sea, or looking up at the moon, or just breathing the air around you. It all started as dust, drifting, cold, and directionless, until gravity gave it purpose. Collision by collision, it built a planet. Impact by impact, it built a moon. Eruption by eruption, it built an atmosphere. And drop by drop, it built an ocean. 4.6 billion years of chaos, fire, and collision, just to make this one, quiet, blue world, and somehow, here we are. If this made you see our planet differently, hit subscribe, because next time, we're going even further back, to the moment the very first star in the universe switched on.